Good morning, and thank you for joining us for Easter Sunday. The resurrection is the highlight of Christianity. Really, it is the single greatest point of Christianity. Without the resurrection, all we have are a bunch of good teachings, which, no offense, they're great teachings. But with the resurrection, we now have a faith, a confidence, a belief that life goes beyond what we see here in the very present. This year, in our study and build up to Easter Sunday, to Resurrection Sunday, if you will, we have been looking at signs in the Gospel by John. And so we're now at John chapter 20, and this is the resurrection account. This is the resurrection appearances of Jesus to three critical groups of people. The first one we're going to look at is Mary Magdalene. The second will be the disciples, and the third will be Thomas. So open your Bibles to John chapter 20. We're going to read beginning verse 11. Now Mary stood outside the tomb crying, and as she wept, she bent over to look into the tomb, and saw two angels in white seated where Jesus' body had been, one at the head and the other at the foot. They asked her, "Woman, why are you crying?" "They have taken my Lord away," she said, "and I don't know where they have put him." At this she turned around and saw Jesus standing there, but she did not realize that it was Jesus. He asked her, "Woman, why are you crying? Who is it that you're looking for?" Thinking he was the gardener, she said, "Sir, if you've carried him away, tell me where you've put him, and I will get him." And Jesus said to her, "Mary." She turned towards him and cried out in Aramaic, "Rabboni," meaning teacher. And Jesus said, "Do not hold on to me, for I have not yet ascended to the Father. Go instead to my brothers and tell them that I am ascending to my Father, and to your Father, to my God and to your God." Mary Magdalene went to the disciples with the news, "I've seen the Lord." And she told them that he had said these things to her. When I look at Mary and the encounter that Mary's dealing with here, I realize that there's an unknown in Mary's life. This unknown is, where is Jesus? Where is he at in this moment? She knew the body was placed in a tomb. She knew that's where it was last located, but all of a sudden it's not there. And that really brings to this question the idea of what happens when we feel we can't find Jesus. This uncertainty that exists within our lives. Oh, I know that happens oftentimes for us, under different circumstances, but it happens. What do we do when we can't find Jesus? I know that when a phone call comes in about a dear loved one passing away, that instant trouble, that instant unknown, the confusion that goes on in our mind as we're trying to grasp and understand what's really going on. Why did this happen? How did this happen? All of the unknowns, all the times of conflict, the times of war. What's going to happen? How's it going to happen? And all of these tension points of life can bring us to this question of, where is God? Where is God in the times of my pain and the times of my struggle? Where is God when I need him the most? Now, this story has a beautiful ending to it that I think fits for you and I. Because you see, Mary was questioning, where is Jesus? But she's asking, where is Jesus? To the man who's in her presence, Jesus himself. Oftentimes, we are in the midst of turmoil of life, the struggle that we endure, and we ask that question, Jesus, where are you? God, where are you? I can't experience, I don't understand. And in those moments, where was Jesus for Mary? He was right there. All she had to do was turn and look. Matter of fact, she did. And even when she did, she didn't fully grasp that that was him. I wonder how often in life we've asked Jesus, "Jesus, where are you? God, where are you?" And they're there, but we don't see them. Maybe they came in a hug from a friend. Maybe they came in a phone call from someone who we know. Maybe they came in a way that wasn't as visible as we want them to be. But Jesus is very present in the times of uncertainty. In the times when you question, the times when you doubt, when you struggle, Jesus is present. And know that in your life, as you encounter trials and difficulties, as we march on through the joy of the resurrection, the reality that our brother and friend and Christ and Messiah of Jesus is no longer dead, the joy that comes knowing that He was there all along. Our second encounter, our second resurrection appearance here, is Jesus to the disciples. As we look at this will begin in verse 19. On the evening of that first day of the week, when the disciples were together with the doors locked for fear of the Jewish leaders, Jesus came and stood among them and said, "Peace be with you." After He said this, He showed them His hands and side. The disciples were overjoyed when they saw the Lord. And again Jesus said, "Peace be with you. As the Father has sent me, I am sending you." And with that, He breathed on them and said, "Receive the Holy Spirit." I see that fear here is probably the key phrase to be used to describe the disciples. I do know that after they saw Jesus and after they touched His hand and His side, that it says that they were overjoyed. They realized the message of the resurrection. At that point, their faith had become sight. But I want to focus on fear for a moment. What I notice in this passage is that fear is contagious. When just here recently, we've had some pretty good storms move through our area. And as those storms were coming through, this was, matter of fact, there was, I guess, a tornado not too far from our church building, and it was on a Wednesday night. We had just finished up our Wednesday evening services and our classes, and there were still a group of people here, and the sirens went off, and we have a very big, expansive basement, very safe, secure area to go to, so everyone went down there. But this was my son's first real storm experience. The only other storm experience that I can recall for him was actually one that he was asleep during. And I was just hopeful that the wind and the lightning and the rain didn't wake him up. But this one was his first one to be awake for. He has no knowledge of what a storm is or a tornado is. He knows of lightning. He knows of rain. He knows of those things. But what I noticed is that as we're all sitting in the basement, my son becomes afraid. We're all hunkered down in this room, concerned about what's going on, concerned about what has passed by. And my son starts to quiver, he starts to shake, and then he starts to almost cry. And he's trying to hold it back, and it's, what's wrong? And he finally says, "I'm afraid." He had no reason to be afraid, except for the fact that other people were afraid. Other people around him were afraid and were sharing their fear to him, and he could perceive that. He knew the dangers were real. He didn't need to be taught. He understood that fear is contagious. Oh, in our lives, I think fear is a contagious thing. How have we been afraid to share the gospel of Jesus with others? How have we been afraid to do the things that God has called us to do? How have we been afraid to do any of the things that the Bible shares with us? How have we been afraid before? And then I realized that in our times of fear, maybe we are hunkered down in a basement afraid of what might possibly happen, that a bad storm may actually damage a building or that it may hurt us. We become afraid of those things. Fear is contagious. It's built upon our past. But I also know that fear can be part of Satan's tool chest. Why were the disciples afraid this night, this resurrection night? They were afraid for their own lives. They were afraid of the storms around them. It wasn't a literal storm. It was a figurative storm. The storms of political chaos that was occurring in their presence. And they were afraid. Our world has many things to be afraid of. Whether it's the political chaos that we can endure, or whether it's the storms, the literal storms of life. There are things that we can be afraid of. But notice where Jesus is in the disciples' fear. They're afraid, but what does Jesus do? He shows up. And as He's there, He's present, and He does exactly what they need to put their fear to the side. He gives them a reason to be confident, to be bold, and He gives them a spirit. Friends, that same Jesus is with you in your fear. When the storms of life are circling around, when everything seems dark and you feel locked in the room with the uncertainty of what's going to happen, Jesus is there. He is there waiting with you. He is there prepared to give you everything you need for confidence, to know that in the resurrection of Christ, we have the greatest confidence possible. That there is nothing in this world that can hold us back. There's nothing in this world that can truly harm us. That we are truly independent from this world because of the power of the resurrection. Our final appearance that we're going to talk about today is Jesus' appearance to Thomas. We call him Doubting Thomas, and that's really that's true, but it's not the best term for him. You see, Jesus appeared to the disciples in what we just read, what we just talked about. But we learned that Thomas wasn't present at that appearance. Why he wasn't there, we don't really know. But this is Jesus' appearance to Thomas. Verse 24. Now Thomas, also known as Didymus, one of the 12, was not with the disciples when Jesus came. So the other disciples told him, "We have seen the Lord." But he said to them, "Unless I see the nail marks in His hand, and put my finger where the nails were, and I put my hand in His side, I will not believe." A week later, His disciples were in the house again. And Thomas was with them. Though the doors were locked, Jesus came and stood among them. "Peace be with you." Then He said to Thomas, "Put your finger here. See my hands. Reach out your hand and put it in my side. Stop doubting and believe." And Thomas said to Him, "My Lord and my God." I look at Thomas and I feel sorry for the guy because he does get a bad rap for this encounter in the text. But at the same time, it is warranted. His dearest friends, the people who he has spent years with now, the other disciples, are the ones who have told him, "We've seen the Lord." Mary Magdalene and other ladies have seen, and so they tell, "We've seen the Lord." And Thomas, in the midst of all of these witnesses, is still holding out saying, "I don't believe. I don't believe. I'm doubting what you're saying." Then my question becomes, where is Jesus in the doubt of life? See, I think that some of this doubt, the best analogy or the best thing I could think of was much like the birth of a child. Oh man, the birth of a child, for those of you who've had children, you know that joyous moment, that time when when they wrap the baby up and they hand it to you, and you hold that precious child for the first time. You know the emotion that goes on in that. But let me rephrase into this story for a moment. Thomas has spent years preparing for Jesus to be the Messiah, but he didn't know that this is how it was going to happen. And then all of a sudden, Jesus is the Messiah. He's been told that this is what's happening, but he doesn't quite believe because he doesn't see. For those of you who've had children, it's that moment, the expectation, the months of preparation, the months of growth and development, the months of prayer, and all the things that you do for the birth to arrive. And then you hear a cry. The child is still maybe behind a sheet or is being taken care of by a doctor or by a nurse. And then they hand the baby to its mama. And all of a sudden, faith became sight. The concerns that, would this be a healthy pregnancy? Would this be a healthy birth? The concerns of all the fears that could exist, the doubting, the uncertainty. Yes, the stomach may grow for a child, but there's still this uncertainty of what could happen. And all of a sudden, there's no more fear. because reality has really hit. And even though our mind can't grasp the life of a child in the womb, we grasp it when we see the child. I think that's kind of the way Thomas is here. He could not grasp reality. Reality was that Jesus had come back from the dead, that Jesus was resurrected, that Jesus was walking about the earth, that Jesus was appearing to other disciples. That was reality, but Thomas couldn't grasp it. He had yet to see his Savior. Oh, how often do we ask, oh God, just give me a sign. Oh God, just show me this. God, just do so that I can see. How often do we doubt? But I look at this account and I ask that question, where is Jesus in my doubt, in my uncertainty? Granted, it took Thomas about a week to experience Jesus, but where was Jesus? That next week, Jesus appeared to Thomas. And you get this impression in John that Jesus appears into the room even though it's locked. And then he walks straight to Thomas and he looks him straight in the eye. And he says, Thomas, here's my hand. Here's my side. Touch it. Whatever it takes for you to believe, Thomas, I'm willing to do it. That's what I see Jesus saying to Thomas is, Thomas, I don't care what you need to have confidence, to have assurance, to have faith. I don't care what it is. I'll do it so that you'll believe. Stop doubting and believe. Friends, that's what Jesus says to you. I don't know what you need to believe. I don't know what encounter you need, but Jesus is the one who's saying, I've given you everything I can. But whatever else I can do, I want to do because I want you to believe. In the times of your doubt, Jesus is very present, and He's the one saying, I am here. I'm sending you all of these resources so that you can believe, so that you can understand who I am, and that you'll submit your life to God the Father. That's really the point of the Gospel of John. John wraps up his gospel narrative with a very popular verse, but he says, I've written these things to you so that you may believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that by believing you may have life. I've written these things that you may believe. The signs that we've studied over the past 8 weeks now, the signs that John records, the resurrection is the fulfillment, is the ultimate sign that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God. And He's done all this so you'd believe. The resurrection appearances occur not necessarily for the individual's fullest benefit. I mean, they do, so that Mary would believe, the disciples would believe, and Thomas would believe. But the appearances are for us as well. When Paul shares the gospel message in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, he tells the gospel messages that Jesus lived, died, was buried, and that He rose again on the third day, but he concludes the gospel story with, and He appeared. He made His resurrection public so that all would know. And friends, I want you to know that Jesus came back from the grave, and that He promises you the same opportunity. That life isn't going to end, it's going to end, but that it doesn't have to stay in the grave. Just like Jesus came back, your faith and belief in Jesus as the Christ is what can bring resurrection to you as well in that great and glorious day. So this day is a day of joy that we celebrate in Jesus' resurrection, but it's a day of joy that we look forward to our own resurrection as well. My question for you now is, do you believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God? And would you stake your name on that? If there is some way that we as a church can respond and can help you, we want to do that. I would encourage you to email our church office at office@okolona.church, or give us a call or send us a text, 502-969-3745. 888-888-7654. And let us know how we can help you, how we can serve you. Maybe you want to believe, and maybe you want to make your belief action. Feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to visit.